Every time I go to the doctor's office, there's no language around it. And so maybe I'm crazy. Or you
Totally.
called yourself weird.
You need time for people to be able to tell their story. I only see women, so women will say, I haven't been the same since. The people who end up in my office have tried to talk, they've tried to explain, nobody has listened, nobody has believed. The utter vulnerability of showing up in a healthcare practitioner's office. I kind of joke about it. I'm like, what I do is so easy. I listen, I believe, I treat people as individuals, and I talk to people about their life.
That is medicine. You are a smart, educated human who wants more from healthcare. And this is the Medical Disruptor Podcast, the show where MDs, NPs, PAs, and researchers tell us how they broke the rules because they couldn't find answers in the system they came from. My guests are all science-trained innovators who chose the truth over tradition. Real talk, real science, no gaslighting. And I'm Dr. E, the NP with a PhD, and I'm committed to making sure that you never experience medical gaslighting again. Because when you've been told the same story long enough, you start to believe it. This show is here to help you challenge your own medical beliefs, especially the ones that were never really yours to begin with. And today's guest is Carrie Levine, a certified nurse midwife, functional medicine pioneer, and author of Whole Women's Health. Her journey from conventional training to opening up a practice in her barn, yep, you heard me right, in her barn, and rewriting the rules of women's health along the way is nothing short of inspiring. We're talking systems medicine, patient trust, and how functional care actually works in real life. Oh, and we're also going to go deep on her new book, so get ready to take notes. Let's dive in. Oh, Carrie Levine, certified nurse midwife. I am so excited that you're here.
I'm really pleased to meet you. I love your work.
Thank you. That's so kind of you. That's so kind of you. And you were like a perfect match for the podcast. We have so much to talk about, especially your book. Anyone listening, we're going to tell you all about the book. You're going to want to buy it. But before we get to the book, I always like to let our audience know, what did you do before you came to the dark side? How did you come to the dark side? So tell us.
Dark side.
I know, which is the light side. I know.
Is this not the light side?
It is. Of course it is.
The light side.
The light side. Everyone says that. It's so
Oh, really?
yeah, and I love it. And I keep doubling down, and I want to see everyone's reaction. Like, what do you mean? This is not the dark side. I love it.
That's where you can just be like, and cut, moving on, next person.
It's a litmus test. Too fast.
Totally. That's your screening test.
That's so funny.
Well, I mean, it's like, how far back do you want to go, right? Like as an undergrad, I knew I wanted to work with women. I wasn't sure how. I got a degree in public relations and women's studies. I knew I was never going to be an ad woman. And I graduated and talked to a mentor, and she was like, what do you want your life to look like? How long do you want to go to school for? And how much debt do you want to have?
Excellent question.
She is the best. And I was like, well, I don't really like sick people. And I'm really bad at taking orders. And she said, how about a nurse practitioner in the state of Maine? You have full autonomy. And I was like, bing. And so I went online and started looking at programs for people who had an undergraduate degree in something other than nursing, honed in on a few, and then ended up at Case Western Reserve. And all of the women I was sort of drawn to were all going to be midwives. And I really didn't know what that was. And a friend of mine did doula trainings, and she was like, come do a birth with me. And I had actually had a long background in outdoor experiential education, like taking women rock climbing and that sort of thing. And the labor room I was like, oh, I know how to do this. I know how to support women doing hard physical things. And it was this fascinating transfer of skills. So chose midwife.
I got in, by the way, it's called a medical disruptor, but you'll soon learn it should be medical interrupter.
Oh, excellent.
I just want to take a moment, and I want to hear more about your story, but I just want to take a moment how important that mentorship was. I see this often, like we go in thinking, oh, I'm going to do this thing. And then we have this great experience with a mentor in a field that we never even knew, and it changes everything. And so anyone out there listening, you never know how you're going to impact someone. So be a teacher, be a mentor, because you could change someone's life, which in turn will change other people, because Carrie's experience has helped so many other women. So thank you to those women who, gave you that insight. So I'm sorry, and inspired you. Go back to your story.
Oh, it's great. It's great. So started at Case, got my nursing degree, and my then partner, now husband, was like, I'm out of Cleveland, Ohio. I'm going back to Maine. And so I started looking at distance education programs before distance education was a thing. Yeah, I mean, way back in the olden days, and went to Frontiers. It's now Frontier Nursing Midwife University, but it was the community nurse midwifery education program. And so you did your courses online, and then you did clinicals in your community, which I loved. And when I graduated, there was one job in the state at this small little community hospital. And during that tenure of 7.5 years, I had 2 kids of my own, and I was crazy.
Yeah, crazy. Absolutely crazy.
I was crazy. I was throwing dishes. I was, it was not a great match. Not to mention that working at the hospital was like...
Okay, quick break. If this episode is hitting home, just ask yourself this. Are you gaslighting yourself without even realizing it? I made a free guide called Self-Gaslighting Habits to Watch For. So if you're constantly second-guessing yourself in the exam room, this is your starting point. Check out the link in the description. Now let's get back to it.
We would like you to work more for less money. Oh, and by the way, we would like you to work more for less money. And if you could just work more for less money. And I got to a point where I was like, any human with any integrity would not do this. And so I started looking for other jobs. And there was
by the way, how was your health back then? So like you have this horrible stress and you're a mom.
Yeah. I mean,
That's when you were crazy.
It was mostly my mental health.
Yeah.
I mean, transitioning to being a mom in and of itself is really upturns the apple cart if you have ideas around equality and that sort of thing. Being a breastfeeding mom was not an equitable situation for me. I know that different couples manage it differently, but for me, that was not how it played out. And the sleep deprivation was brutal.
Wow. Yeah.
I was crabby. I mean, knock on wood, I didn't have physical things come up, but I was really, really crabby. So I knew call wasn't good, and I got a job at Women to Women, which is a pioneering women's health clinic in Yarmouth, Maine. And it was there that I was introduced to functional medicine. That was the clinic that Christiane Northrup started. Not that everybody loves her now. She's become very controversial, but back in 1988, when she wrote Women's Bodies, Women's Wisdom, that was like the next generation of the Boston Women's Health Collective in terms of sort of like feminist healthcare and integrating alternative healthcare, alternative or whatever you wanted to call it at the time. And I
know. I'm sorry. Alternative, right? What an annoying term. Like, this is not, like, why is this the alternative? Why?
Alternative to what?
Right? Alternative to what? And conventional medicine is alternative. Medication is alternative. Like, that's just whatever. Yeah. Okay. Sorry.
I mean, it's interesting, right? The semantics around what we do, because not a lot of people know what functional medicine is. And then where is the crossover between alternative, lifestyle medicine, integrative medicine, functional medicine? And so it's, because you're in clinical practice, like it's a little bit tricky sometimes to explain what it is that we do, which is why I wrote the book that I wrote, which I'm sure we'll get to. But
of course we will.
So at Women to Women, I was very well mentored there, which I'm very grateful for. And about 6 months in, they sent me to AFMCP, the 5-day foundational in-person back in the day, functional medicine course. And when I got to Women, there was language for everything that I had understood about healthcare, but didn't have the language for.
Wow, that's really, really, really important. You had this inner knowing. Yeah. And you also knew after 7 years that is not health. Like whatever you were doing was just not it.
Totally.
But didn't know that there's an alternative. So interesting. You didn't come from it from a space of curiosity, as some people do, or some people come from a space of necessity because they're dealing with a disease. You came to it because you got a job and you were exposed to it.
Yeah, but I like to tell people, like, I've always been weird. I was weird at a really young age.
Good. I love weird.
I was reading books on crystal healing, going to yoga classes before yoga was open. And so I was sort of always a seeker. And I think that on some level, I just maybe probably felt in my own body, that everything was connected. Yeah. That what I ate had something to do with how I felt, which had something to do with how I moved, which had something to do with how I went to the bathroom, which had something to do with my periods. Like, I think I must have had some embodied experience
Sure.
that let me know that, because I kind of came to functional medicine
And you feel
already
like,
believing
oh,
that.
it's clicking now.
Yeah. Like, oh,
Yeah.
that's how you talk about it.
Yeah.
Oh, and that's the biochemistry.
You know, that's really interesting what you're saying, because it's like, especially for women, or actually any lay person, right? You're feeling all these things, and you're like, I think this is connected. It feels connected. When I eat this thing, I'm bloated, or I'm crabby after, or I think it's connected. But no, every time I go to the doctor's office, there's no language around it, and so maybe I'm crazy, or you called yourself weird, right?
Totally, right? Or that idea of like, oh, I have bloating, so I'm going to go to the gastroenterologist, and they're going to say, well, it has nothing to do with what you're eating.
I know
Like,
that's my favorite line of all time.
all time. What?
So
That's not even
how does that make sense? But this is really interesting, because I'm writing my second book, and I'm talking about the fact that we have this language everywhere else in our lives, but then we come into the exam room and we abandon it. We abandon it, or because like well, if they say it's not connected to food, it must not be connected to food. But like, but it hurts. So it's really interesting that you're saying that. So like, you had this feeling, this knowing, but you didn't have language for it. Really important. So for those who don't know, AFMCP is like that first course in the Institute of Functional Medicine. You have to do that first before you go anywhere else. And so you went there, and it started making sense.
It totally, I mean, I had been practicing for 6 months. So when I went there, I already had some sense of what was going on. But I can remember when I started at Women to Women, and women would come from all over the world to that practice with their notebooks of their executive workups, and hand me their notebook and be like, here's the testing. They say I'm fine, except that I get out of bed and take a shower, and then I have to take a nap.
Yeah.
And I remember sitting there feeling the biggest imposter of feeling like, am I out of my scope of practice? Like, how am I?
All these geniuses did all this work. Who am I?
100% like, and I'm not a doctor. Like, how am I supposed to, how could I possibly help this human? What could I possibly bring to the table that hasn't been explored? But all of those workups, as you know, are conventional. And that in some ways is so amazing, because you're like, great, there's no pathology.
Yes.
Let's out function, right? And like, let's do a stool analysis and see how's your good bacteria, how's your bad bacteria, how are your enzymes, yada, yada. And you know this because you live it, which is like, it's really compelling. And when you walk in an exam room for a follow-up and you're like, hey, how's it going? And they're like, I'm so much better.
I'm so much better.
And you're like,
it's so important. I told you I'm going to interrupt you a lot. Because we can get into like the world of like clinician to clinician. I always want to make sure that we're bringing it back to the audience. So this is going to interrupt.
Totally.
It's really important, because I'm sure to practice safely, it was a criteria that you come with all those tests done.
Totally.
So anyone who's thinking, oh, I don't need these tests, no, get the tests. Get the tests. They have, when they find nothing, that's when you know you're in the right place.
Please get the tests, right?
Get everything. Yeah.
Are such a great example of that. How many perimenopausal women come in with heart palpitations? And I'm like, I'm pretty sure it's your hormones, but there is no way I can say that safely until you have a cardiac evaluation. Please go see your primary care, get the workup. I'm not really thinking they're going to find anything. If they do, great. If they don't, come back. Then we got things for heart palpitations, but it's really, to me, the best care, right, is not an either or scenario. It's it's all of it.
And how cool would it be? And this is, I try to empower clinicians. If the cardiologist could say, I've checked everything, I found nothing, I think you should go see this person, Carrie Levine, who can now take it to the next level. And that's the piece that's missing, right? We are like, go there and then come back to me. But clinicians should be like, listen, I can't find anything, but I don't think you're crazy. Here's a few people you can go to so that patients have that journey. Okay, so you do this beginning, and then what happens? You start getting better at it.
Yeah. So I practice and women come back and are like, I feel better. And I'm like, okay, well, there must be something to it, even though I still feel like I don't really know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
And I do that for a bunch of years. And during that time, my kids are a little bit older. My dad, who had had a brain tumor when I was 21, gets he had a brain tumor, and then he went on a healing journey that was like, he moved to Asheville, North Carolina. He got super involved in the macrobiotic community. He was super involved in the functional medicine community there. And I end up being his caretaker. And I'm like, well, what are you going to do, Carrie, when you're like 60? Are you still going to drive an hour and 10 minutes to work, to and from work? And then you're going to do that drive. And then you're going to sit all day and see patients. And then you're going to drive home. And that's not great for your body. And the days are long. And I was like, I think I have to start my own practice. And there was also a little bit of a shift happening at Women to Women, where there was a focus on weight loss, which is not particularly my jam. Like,
Agreed.
It's a huge issue for women, and it's almost always part of what comes up for them, but I'm not targeted on that. I see weight as a symptom, not a problem, et cetera, et cetera.
Agreed.
Anyway, I didn't want to go down that pathway, and I wanted a sustainable work life for myself so that I could age and keep working and still be well and not hurt, because I sit all day seeing patients and I drive 3 hours a day, and et cetera, et cetera. And so it really, there was that moment of, I have to do this now while I have the energy, so that when I am older and I have less energy, it is sort of in place. And I talked to enough people who were like, low overhead, low overhead, low overhead. So I started a micro practice that's in my barn, and it's just me and my electronic medical record.
Love.
My root health and my full, my ways to order labs and my ways to make supplement recommendations. I have hired a nurse who helps do some admin, because I'm not here all day, every day. And it was feeling a little unruly. So it's a very small little world that I live and practice in.
Well, it's small, but it's also big. I mean, we found you on Instagram, so you also have quite a presence.
Yeah, increasingly so, for sure. And I've been here in my practice for 10 years.
Wow.
So it's not new anymore. And the state of Maine is very big geographically and not population dense. And so, I live, let's see, probably I live about an hour and 45 minutes from the New Hampshire border, but I am like, I want to say about 6 hours from the Canadian border. So there's 6 hours north of me of women living in Maine looking for healthcare, looking for something different, looking for digestive health or leg health or hormone balancing. And so that part was interesting, right? Like COVID really was helpful in my practice. It pushed me to do telehealth, and it broadened people's idea of where their health practitioner could be.
It didn't have to be down the street anymore. It's so true.
Exactly.
So what prompted you to write the book? By the way, tell everybody the title of the book.
The book is Whole Woman Health, which is some of my practice. And there's a subtitle that I'm looking at, a copy of the book, because I always get it wrong. It's like a guide to wellness for every age and stage. So it's women or females with that anatomy who at any age, right? People, I think, sometimes think I just take care of midlife women, but I really take care of women 11 to like 85. And I have always wanted to write a book. I've been a journal writer since I was 13 and put myself through all kinds of like the artist's way and proprioceptive writing, any sort of workbook sort of thing for writing that I could do, I would do. And I had this idea in my head to write a book called Inflammation, the Common Denominator, because inflammation underwrites so many issues. And I put that down for a little while. And then I had a daughter who passed in 2018 when she was 15 in a car accident.
Oh my God. I'm so
Yeah,
sorry.
thank you. And so suddenly I had an empty nest, and it was COVID. And I have a son too, a living son who's 25, but he was at college. And my daughter passed, and it was COVID. And women would come and I would talk with them about what was going on with them in a systems kind of way. And they would be like,
Okay.
you know,
So hold
so
on. You skipped. No skipping. So you wrote this book, which is amazing. But then you said the word systems, but we didn't tell our audience what that means. So you wrote this book, and what is the essence of this book? What does that mean, systems? What happened?
So, well, I didn't really skip because I wrote this book, Inflammation, and then I put that down. But the book that I wrote was a different book.
Yeah. What is it about?
Okay. So there's a teaching tool that the Institute of Functional Medicine uses called the Functional Medicine Matrix. There is a graphic in the book of the matrix, and it teaches practitioners how to organize clinical information and understand the interconnectedness of everything. For your listeners who aren't familiar with systems biology, the meme is everything is connected to everything, which is very different than the conventional model. In the conventional model, hormones are the jurisdiction of the endocrinologist. Digestion is the jurisdiction of the gastroenterologist. Heart issues are right. And so in functional medicine, there's a tremendous crossover. And one system affects another system, which affects another system. And those systems are also largely affected by our lifestyle, meaning how we live, how we sleep, how we move, our relationships, how we manage stress. Those are at the bottom of the matrix. And then on the side of the matrix are what are called antecedents, triggers, and mediators. And those are the things that as functional medicine practitioners make us ask patients, so what was it like when your mom was pregnant with you? How were you born? Were you born vaginally or C-section? Were you breastfed or bottle fed? Did you have a lot of ear infections? Did you have recurrent strep throat? Were you a happy kid? Were you a stressed kid? What was life at home like, right? And so putting together, and so it's a really user-friendly tool.
It's so important. It's so important. I told you I'm going to interrupt you. Sorry. This is what I do. This is what I do. So because you said a lot of important things, and I want to make sure our audience understands. So first, about the systems, we are so trained to be like cardiology, GI, neurology, and we've never once questioned, most of us, well, who decided that that's a system? That somebody decided to classify it that way, right? Like, it is not intuitive. You don't assume that every culture prior to conventional medicine decided that cardiology is one area. It's like, we need to first understand that that was also, somebody invented that as a system. And decided to separate it, and decided that women's health is separate from overall health, and that you need a different person for your thyroid and your diabetes than you need. So like, somebody decided that rheumatology is separate and that's really important to get that, because we haven't ingrained that that's the way it's supposed to be. It's arbitrary. And that's important because people are like, well, what are these? Well, we created this. So in functional medicine, we have systems called communication, how the things in the body communicate, transport, how things are transported in the body. And some of that is GI, and some of that is cellular, and some of that is hormones. And so when you look at this, some of you are thinking like, well, that's silly. Why do they have their own systems? Is as equally silly as the systems that we are used to, and is equally valid as the systems we are used to. So it's really just important to first, we never question those internal systems. Right. And then you said 3 terms that was really, really an antecedent, trigger, mediators, your ATMs. Right. And I know you're going to get into it more, but the difference between a consultation in a primary care office versus a consultation by you is, in primary care offices is like, all right, when did your symptoms start? And we want to know quickly now, old cards, onset, location, duration. We have our own mnemonic for it. And you are not allowed to go and tell me that it started 20 years ago. You're not allowed to. You're not allowed to. You're literally not allowed to. If you were, no. I get it. You had a life. Yeah. But like this back pain, it's like 1 day, 2 days. Like, that is how the charting works. And that's one way of doing things. But when you're in functional medicine, the antecedents, triggers, and mediators, the antecedents predate when you were born. We got to go, but not just when your back pain started, like as you said, like what happened when you were in your mama's belly? That's how far back we go. And then we go like, what's happened in your life? What are your triggers or mediators? What's happened in your life? So that we can understand where you are. And then there's a whole, and this is why you need time.
Yeah, 100%. You need time for people to be able to tell their story, because if you have time, 90% of the time, I only see women. So I always, women will say, I haven't been the same since. Fill in the blank. I haven't been the same since I went to Africa. I haven't been the same since I moved to my house. I haven't been the same since I started at this job. I haven't been the same since I got sick and took a round of antibiotics. And that's the pivot point, right? That's when their physiology went off the rails. And it is so helpful to know what was the straw that broke the camel's back and when did that happen, because that really helps determine the plan of care. There's a version of the Matrix that I love, and I had I spoke this year at the annual conference for the Institute for Functional Medicine, which was
that's a big deal. Congratulations.
Yeah, they put me on the education track. So I was they sort of have made this education track for people making a transition to functional medicine, not so much the expert clinician. So I didn't speak on physiology, I spoke on process, which is perfect because I'm a process kind of person. But there's a matrix that Kalia Waddles and Robert Luby used last year, and it's a picture of the matrix, and the lines are everywhere connecting everything. And I think between the nodes, between the lifestyle things, between the antecedents, triggers, and mediators. And then one of the things that made me fall in love with functional medicine is in the middle of the matrix is the mind, body, spirit. And so there's room for that. There is room for existential crisis. There's room for those non-tangible aspects of wellness in a functional medicine model, which really speaks to me. And the lines go in every direction. And that's, and it's, the longer I practice, the less I feel like I know, because you just really begin to appreciate, people will say, well, so if I take berberine, I'm going to feel better, right?
No.
And my answer is, I don't really know what's going to happen when you take that molecule and it hits your bloodstream. I'm making that recommendation based on research and experience, but you are going to tell me.
Yes.
Right. So that N of 1, too.
N of 1.
I have a chapter in the book on N of 1, which is just very different model than conventional care of here's your decycling, it's 100 milligrams twice a day for 21 days. Well, maybe it's not.
This idea of N of 1, I'm glad you're surfing this. I've also mentioned it in my book, is for those, this is so important, right? Because we are so used to talking about studies. And if you're N, right, for those who don't know what N is, like the amount of people you study this thing on, right? If I tell you, take this thing, for a study to be a study, it has to be done on thousands of people and it's double blind and etc. And it has its own uses and its own flaws. And so we have come to appreciate that that's the only thing that's valid. And so when someone comes into a conventional medicine and says, I don't know, every time I take Tylenol, my headache gets worse. I don't know, I'm making it up. They're like, that's not possible. That's not possible.
Right.
It's not possible.
Right.
You're like, well, what do you mean it's not possible? Well, all the literature says it's not possible. I don't know what to tell you. Every time I take Tylenol, I get a headache. So in conventional medicine, the idea is like, if you don't fit the algorithm, you're probably a little crazy.
Right.
And here, an N of 1 means, listen, this is what I think Tylenol does or berberine does. This is what I understand it. But I have no idea how it's going to affect you. N of 1, the study is for you. And if you come and tell me that berberine keeps you up at night, even though I have no literature that says keep you up at night, I'm going to believe you.
100%. And how huge is that in and of itself in a therapeutic relationship, right? Just knowing you are going to be listened to and believed.
And believed.
I mean, women will just weep.
Yes.
Because you listen to them And you even believe what they tell you. Like, I know it seems like, I don't know, is it possible that it's related? Like, I do this and then that, and like, nobody else seemed to. And I'm like, yeah, your biochemistry is uniquely yours. And it's not mine, it's not Jane's, and it's not Sandy's.
Right.
So if you think that this is what is happening, chances are good, given that you're in your body,
You know,
happening.
it's so funny because one of my chapters is called if this was your kid, you would know what to do. So if your kid came home and said, every time I go, I don't know, to this class, I just don't, I don't know if they come back and they're messy from that class. They're just dysregulated from the class. You're going to go to the principal and be like, I don't know what's happened in that class, but something's happened in the class. And the principal's like, no, it's the best teacher we got. Like, I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah.
But my kid's not good in that class. And you would not leave the principal's office until the kid was removed. You just wouldn't. Like, you would double down. But then you, mom, woman, are going to take the Burberry, not feel well, and be like, I don't know. Oh, and if they're like, no, you're crazy. Okay, maybe I'm crazy. And then they go home. Like, we second guess ourselves so much.
Well, and the conventional medical system reinforces that.
Absolutely.
Right. Is like the people who end up in my office have tried to talk. They've tried to explain. Nobody has listened. Nobody has believed. And they get here. And I write about this in my book about just like the utter vulnerability of showing up in a healthcare practitioner's office asking for help. And the trauma that people bring to that encounter because they were told it's all in your head or told that in different language. And even if that wasn't what was said, like that is the feeling of what the interaction was. And that was painful and minimizing. And so, you know, there, to me, I kind of joke about it. I'm like, what I do is so easy. It's so easy in so many ways. I listen, I believe, I treat people as individuals, and I talk to people about their life. And that is medicine.
That is medicine.
That is medicine.
And I hug them.
Yeah. Yeah. How about that? Or how about calling back in a timely manner? How about returning a phone call? How about actually being the person who returns the phone call? Or me, like if I'm not with patients, I answer the phone and I'll be like, Whole Woman Health, this is Carrie. And they're like, this is Carrie? Like, this is Carrie Levine? Like I'm some mega star. Like, what are you doing answering the phone? Like, I answer the phone. If I can answer the phone, I answer the phone. And people were like, I didn't think I was going to get you. I thought I was going to have to leave a message. And so that human to human aspect, right? And that's like another thing. How about not pretending like I have the answers?
Yes. I don't know, but I'll help you find it.
How about that?
How about that? Yeah.
I like to joke, you know.
Tell me the joke.
It's not hard what I do. It's not hard.
Do you feel like when I used to consult, when I had the company called The New Method, I used to feel like, I'm sure you experience this. They come to you and they're so traumatized from various experience that they rush to tell you the story as fast as possible because they feel like the time is ticking. They're like, okay, and then you're like, and you got to let them go for like a few minutes. And then you're like, okay, amazing. And they're like, now let's start from the beginning. But that they come in like so pressed. And like,
because they think they have 7 minutes.
They think they have 7 minutes. I have to tell you the whole story as fast as possible. And then, and a lot of like, you know, I'm sorry. And then I know you don't believe me, but this is how I feel. And you're like, okay, so first of all, we have time and now we're going to start over. But that it's so traumatic. They come to you so, you know, storm tossed and they come in and it's, do you notice that, right? When you first meet them?
100%, you know, and it's, you know, however long into the visit and they're crying, right? And it's like, oh, I'm sorry. I'm like, there's the box of tissues. There's room for that here. Like, it's okay. We can be wherever you are. Yeah. I mean, I have spent new patient visits, which are an hour, like literally not saying anything for 40 minutes. And then I'm the one talking fast because I'm trying to explain, here's how I think all of their seemingly unrelated things are actually connected and potentially simpler than they have been led to believe.
Yeah. I'm glad you got us back on track of your book by saying that sentence, because I went off the rails classically.
All good.
And the book, the systems is for those of you who've been listening to our podcast, I'm going to just give you a quick example so that I think it'll resonate. The idea that if you have Hashimoto's or thyroid is related to your gluten. The idea that your skin issue, your psoriasis, your eczema is related to your food. In conventional medicine, you'd be in dermatology in one place, GI in another place. What Carrie's talking about is the understanding that they live in one system.
Yeah. So the other tools that are in the book that are from the Institute for Functional Medicine are the medical symptom questionnaire. So that's a really interesting way for women to sit down, and this is a tool that's used to quantify people's symptoms. And so it breaks it into categories. This is for your listeners, obviously. So it breaks
tell them
the categories, and then you assign a numeric, number 1 through 5, I think it is, no issue, big issue. And then you tally up the sections and you can get a sense of which node is driving the bus. And then the other tool that is in the book is the timeline. So the timeline, it's interesting. I talked about this at IFM. I have taken care of this woman forever, super complex medical history, Lyme, a whole bunch of things. And she has come and gone over the years. I've known her for a couple decades now. And she read the book and she sat down and she did her timeline, which is chronicling someone's life, right? For your listeners, you go to prenatal and then your birth, and then you do the sequence of events of what has happened in your life. This is when my parents divorced. This is when I moved to Australia. This is when I got my vaccinations. This is why. And she came to her visit with her timeline. She gave it to me and she's like, I finally understand what happened to me.
Wow. Yes. A timeline.
She didn't even need me.
Yeah.
She just needed the tool. So the book was designed for people to get an umbrella perspective of functional medicine, because there really is no umbrella book.
There is no umbrella book.
There is no umbrella book, because books get the same thing happens in publishing that happens in medicine. Books get siloed into one particular topic because that's what sells. You want to solve a problem in the same way that you go see gastro if it's your gut, except that, and then 9 times out of 10, if it's a women's health book, it gets spun as a weight loss book. And it was not writing a weight loss book. That's not the book I'm writing. I am trying to write the book, the 20,000 foot view perspective of this is the model and this is how things are connected. And here's 5 conventional labs to consider, 5 functional labs to consider, 5 foods to consider, and 5 lifestyle modifications to consider for each.
A primer, a beginner's. Start here. And spend whatever $20 it costs for the book. Start here. That is really good. And the medical questionnaire, I also used it, I'm sure you did too, to track improvement, because many of our clients have normal labs. So what am I going to track? I'm not tracking your weight. What am I tracking your what am I tracking to show improvement? So if I say go gluten-free and your brain fog goes from a 5 to a 3, we know there's a correlation. Exactly. Now, your other stuff may have stayed to a 5. That doesn't mean gluten-free didn't work. It worked for this particular symptom. And then you go and you try to chisel down the next one. But using that same, it is the only way to quantify. And it's unique because at its core, instead of this third-party lab or image, which has its place certainly, we are using your symptoms.
Yeah.
And go back to the N1, take the berberine and it improves or it doesn't improve. It's neutral. Okay, great. And that's how we know, and that's how we build. And that's so important. And using that is so validating.
100%. I mean, because sometimes the improvement from visit to visit is sometimes they're like, I don't know, maybe I'm a little bit better, and I don't really want to ask people to stand on their head and pat their tummy and spend a ton of money on supplements or do mega lifestyle modifications or like therapeutic nutrition interventions for nothing.
Yeah.
Like, I'm asking them to do hard things because I believe they're going to help them feel better. But if they're not feeling better, then we missed the mark and we need to change the course. And so I want to know, is what we're doing working? Because if not, let's do something else.
Yes.
Or let me send you to someone else who is smarter than me who can figure it out.
Yes. And that's an interesting point too. Like in functional medicine, just like conventional medicine, we have specialists.
We do.
So like who's on your, what type of functional specialist do you like to refer to? What type?
Yeah, I mean, I would say I think I am largely regarded as a hormone specialist, particularly in the state of Maine, because there's not a ton of people I'm like the old one now, which is fascinating, right? Like I've been doing hormone balancing for 20 years. How did that happen? I do all of it. But I think when people think of me, they largely think hormone balancing.
Sure.
I don't have a huge, again, like practitioners in Maine. There's not a ton of functional medicine practitioners. Oh, but I don't do Lyme, so I will refer to someone for Lyme, and I will refer for mold.
Yeah.
Because I don't do mold either. I had a moment where I was like, I have to learn how to treat this stuff, and then I was like,
too big.
But I don't.
You don't.
I'm actually plenty busy with hormones, and that is its own subspecialty.
Yes.
And that is niche, and they study and they do extra training. And I'm actually not going to take those complicated things on.
And it is your role in that, as was mine, was to say, and here's what the problem is, which is also great because no one talks about mold in conventional medicine. Be like, here's the problem is, and here's where you need to go, which is always so great. I still practice primary care, conventional medicine all day long. And I can't tell you how many people come in and I'm like, you are 100% mold. You are 100% in the wrong office. And you don't need to see any more specialists through your insurance. You have to go somewhere else because it becomes so classic. But being able to refer to someone who does this, because mold is
it's tricky.
It's very tricky. It's very
super. And also refer outside of, functional medicine. I'm not an acupuncturist. I'm not a Reiki healer. I'm not a I'm not a pelvic floor physical therapist. I refer to pelvic floor PT all the time. Right. And even conventional, please go to a cardiologist and have an evaluation. Please do, with your family history, have a colonoscopy. Please do go see the endocrinologist. Like, I think it's just adrenal fatigue, but let's make sure you don't have a pituitary tumor, please go do those things. And so I really try and bridge the worlds. I really do. And I really try to not vilify, even primary care, right? People are like, I'm so done with my primary care. And I'm like, you know what? You want your primary care person, because I'm not here every day. I'm not on call. I'm not in your community. And if you call me with bronchitis, I don't really know when you should get an antibiotic and when you don't really need one. So please, no one of us can do it all. No one of us can do it all. Not the acupuncturist, not the primary care, not me. Agreed. And I really just try and I really don't want people to polarize.
Yeah. And you have to educate your patients to know, like, you shouldn't be done with your PCP or any of your providers unless they're assholes. That's a different story.
Right. Totally.
And we need to educate our patients of what to expect from each provider.
Totally.
Your primary care will give you primary care.
Yeah.
If you want integrative, it doesn't matter if you go to 6 of them. They're not trained in integrative.
Yeah. And you know what? You don't need to actually like your knee surgeon. You just need a good knee surgeon. Like, you're with them, you just need a good surgeon. So if he was a philanderer or he was,
who cares?
He's a really good surgeon. That's what you want. You don't even have to like him.
That's so true. And in a lot of states, you need a PCP that's willing to run labs for you, that's willing to, do some things for you. So it's all team building.
So important.
It's team building. You don't plan a wedding with one person. You have a photographer, you have a florist, you have
It's a hilarious metaphor. It's true.
I feel like we could all kind of relate to it. If you are not married, you've been to a wedding, there's several people involved. So, yeah, that's amazing. Oh my God. All right, Carrie Levine, as we come towards the end of our hour together, what do you want to tell our audience that maybe I forgot to ask you?
Find the right practitioner for you, right? Find the right personality, because no one of us is the right match for everybody. And having the right match, having that feeling of being heard and being listened to and being respected, people are going to get that from a different person. I'm not the right person for everybody. And no one of us is. And I think that feeling, that sort of embodied yes, or feeling a sense of safety or a sense of trust with your practitioner is 75% of the equation.
Yes. I love that so much.
And eat vegetables.
I'm drinking
a lot of them. I see your green juice. A lot of them, a lot. And it's not like don't ever have an ice cream or a potato chip, but do that and eat a lot of vegetables.
Tell them why to eat vegetables. Tell them why, my hormone expert. It's more than what they think. Tell them why.
Well, first, because they're high in fiber, and fiber fuels the colonocytes, which fuel the gut microbiome, which is essential for gut microbiome balance, which is the home of the immune system and the home of inflammation. And because vegetables are rich in polyphenols, those nutrients that have medicinal value, the blue, the red, the orange, the green, the purple, that those colors in foods do incredible things for our health and wellness. And you can't get them from what my family likes to call it Thanksgiving, the beige food group.
And also, when we talk about fiber, a huge detoxifier.
Huge, right. Perfect.
Huge detoxifier. And so it's not about drinking lemon water, guys, for detoxifying. It's eating your vegetables. You cannot detoxify without that fiber.
That's right. You have to poop. You have to.
Yeah.
You have.
Yeah.
Not just lemon water. You have to poop.
You have to poop. I love that so much. Amazing. Tell everybody again about your book and where we can find it.
So on all major online book retailers, I do like to make a plug for things like bookshop.org, where small local bookstores get a proceed of the book sales to support our small indie bookstores, which I adore. And also you can find me online, carrielevine.cnm, and get to the links for the book through there. And there's blogs and there's links to podcasts and all the things.
All the things. I love
all the things. Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, all the things.
I love that.
No Twitter or X or whatever. No friends. None of, yeah.
Yeah, I'm not there either.
Yeah. Too much.
It's too much bandwidth. Carrie Levine, thank you for being here.
Oh, thank you for having me. What a joy.
Well, that's a wrap for today's episode of The Medical Disruptor. If this lit a fire in you, good. I hope you're agitated. That means you're waking up. Share it with a fellow disruptor. Post it, tag it, text it. This is how the movement grows. And if you want to wear your disruptor badge loud and proud, head over to drfatlamandre.com to grab the latest merch, my book, and more tools to reclaim your health and your power. Until next time, this is The Medical Disruptor, and we're just getting started. Keep asking questions, keep asking for more, and keep disrupting.